The werewolf and the professor are reflecting again in episode 196. Things are happening. It's all happening behind the scenes and stuff. If you follow us on the platform that you are listening to this on us thingy, then you will then get the episodes updated as soon as they come out, and that would be great. And thanks for following us. Thanks for enjoying the show, all those that do. And those that don't, I'm really sorry. It's just, it is what it is. Anyway, back to the episode. Bye! Well, the walk back from the kill is one of false joy. How do I make this hunt a false joy? I remember how this used to make me feel. This was the thing that made me happy. I loved the hunt with my wolf soul. It might be the case that I have to catch up with the thing that is my wolf soul. It's been a while, and sometimes refreshing the memory is a requirement to continue the story in a sort of sensible way. Fenrir is a lot of centuries old. He is the soul of a wolf who lived in the Ural Mountains. His pack and a pack of humans were combined to form a tribe of werewolves. This way, the two combined tribes would survive a particularly harsh winter in the mountains and carry on to be a huge power in the area for a long time. We've done some episodes on certain people who are part of the werewolf tribe, such as Putin, and no, not Trump, but Melania. That makes sense, doesn't it? Melania Trump, or Melania Trump, whatever she's called. She's the wolf. Yeah, the wolves had given their souls to the humans. There were some upsides. The souls were now immortal, and while they were able to choose their hosts. It was all done, as we've already said in previous episodes, by, good old magic and bollocks. The souls, or posits as we know them, would be separate entities from the humans when they were not in their werewolf or wolf form, a giant wolf spirit wandering with their host. The wolf souls were invisible to non-magical folk. They had no physical body and could do all the famously ghost things, like walking through solid objects without affecting them. You know the score. The human and the soul were linked strongly, and the pair could become a werewolf or a wolf when combined, and at will. Then the soul would be taken into the human and cause the changes, or something like that anyway. The sacrifice of the wolves to lose their corporeal bodies was offset by the fact that they were now forever impossible to destroy. Well, as we found out recently, except by very, very powerful magic. They could also leave their host if they wished, soul that is. They could move on and find a fresh one. If their human died, they wandered until they found the right fit. Obviously, passing through a lot of human minds and leaving a lot of fucked up humans by the wayside. Imagine a giant wolf soul that only you can see approach you and ask you to be its friend. Most people's minds are a bit too fragile for that kind of shit, aren't they? The human got the werewolf's power once combined with the soul, one of which was to stop aging. They stopped sort of aging at the equivalent in human years of that wolf had in wolf year. Yeah, it's confusing, I know. But I kind of hope you understand it. This is why I've seemed to not get past my mid-40s. Fen must have been the equivalent in his own species. I don't know, a middle-aged wolf. The most important thing I've really got from Fen is his experience and love. He is my best friend, he's my teacher, and he's my guide. See, that was a bit of a quick reminder. I hope it was helpful. I will now go back to the start of this episode. I was walking back from my kill. I had tracked and taken down a young woman who had been unlucky enough to become the subject of my hunt. She'd been strong and fit, but not in any sense that, she could have stopped me from taking her life and feasting on her flesh. I explained that I was walking back from this kill with a false joy. I tried to recapture an element of my past life. I tried to feel what I used to feel from these hunts, and in that moment, it had almost been there, but something new was in my brain. Oh, don't get me wrong, that moment of chase and kill was all-consuming. In the hunt, it's It's difficult to be distracted. Your mind cannot wander. You cannot think of anything else. Nothing matters in life but the warm, sweet, scented body that you want. It runs a tantalising goal that you want and is your only want in that moment. Mundanity is not in the hunt. The mundanity of much of human life is not in the hunt. The hunt, I suppose, is a sort of foreplay and a seduction before the kill. As with all seductions, it can be quick or it can be slow. It changes magically with each hunt. The seduction of the hunt is often better than the outcome, much as sex can be. The not knowing, the tease of the creature pursued, how that victim behaves is wildly different in all cases, which is somewhat of a turn on. Oh, and please do not think that all these hunts are non-consensual. Of course, most are. Some of my hunts are consensual. In fact, if you've come into my realm of awareness and I want to hunt you, then I sort of feel that you've consented in a way. If you did not want to be there, you would have followed a different path of fate. I mean, it's only my opinion though, which is much more worthy than your own. So there. Then there is the kill. I've recently considered if these kills are murder, but murder is killing someone without good reason. I always have a good reason to kill. Often to feed. In my wolf form and werewolf form, the consumption of human flesh seems to be acceptable. In fact, even in my human form, I sort of think of myself as something different than, what are they, Homo sapien. I am Homo lupus. This gives me, somewhere in my own head, sort of an allowance to eat human, even in human form. But I've only done so very rarely. It's much easier to eat the bloody fresh flesh when, in my other forms, it's much more rewarding. The kills vary in the manner, long and tortured to short and sweet and everything in between. I often want to break the will of a person before killing them. I want them to turn their back on hope and welcome in despair. It makes the hairs rise on the nape of my neck when I think of all those times a will was broken with my my, let's just call it, special help. The human race has invented hope. It was a nice thing to invent. You don't even have to try to do something about the situation that you find yourself in. You do nothing to help yourself, but you can still hope it's going to be alright. This is so fucking stupid to me. I don't understand hope. I think you have to try to solve your issues, not hope that it just works out for you. It's fucking stupid if you think about it. The chase down, seduction, the breaking of the will and the kill are patterns I love in the pursuit. It brings me joy. That's a lie. It used to bring me joy. Oh, don't get me wrong, in the moment tonight I enjoyed the processes outlined above, but instead of walking back to the car in a somewhat blood-induced drunken haze, I walked back in a, what would you say, quandary? Is that the right word? I'm questioning things that I would have never done before. Who was the girl? What was her role in life? What will her family and loved ones feel at her loss? Was it okay to... No, I can't think like this. Fen walks next to me and he reads my thoughts, and I can feel his irritation at this new path I seem to have taken. They're your prayer, Will. Nothing more, nothing less. They die so you can live. It's the way it is, and that way has always been. Did the girl worry about the mother of the calf she ate at dinner? He asks. I nod at this. I mean, it makes sense, but then my brain picks holes in his arguments. Questions of levels of consciousness. Is the mother cow capable of feelings that a human is? Is it okay to kill the calf and hurt the mother of it? Is that alright? What the fuck? Am I possibly going to end up being the first vegan werewolf in history? Oh shit, I can't continue down this path of nonsense. Bloody snap out of it! You're right, you're on a bloody path of nonsense, Will. You need to understand that there's a pecking order in this nature, and that you're at the top of it, you're a What is it? A fucking apex predator, and that means that all fall to your wants and needs. That is why they are there, to serve your fucking needs, whatever that may be. Revel in it. Revel in the fact that you are who you are. The lowly creatures admire you for it. They wish they were like you. They wish that they were you. Accept your place once more. The fox does not consider the life of the rabbit. The eagle, the leverets that take in the hare, leaves behind to starve. You need to relearn your bloody status in this world. Human considerations have polluted your thoughts. You're not human. Humans fear what you are. They would destroy you without a thought, so have no thought for them. He told me he was roiling in anger. Was I being pathetic? Had I taken on the role of a human with a human's considerations? Who knows? I needed to do something about this, though. I really did. My life was not the fun-filled, fearless escapade of the past. It was a new reality where I questioned my existence and whether I had a place in it all. I suffered life now. Things had to fucking change, but was it possible to regain the mentality I once had? Had I lost my predatory innocence, an innocence where I did not question what I did? I was just doing what I did. Fen laughed at my thoughts. The only good human being is a fucking dead 'un, he said. George Orwell said that, and he should know, although he probably never got to meet some of the dead humans we have. Those were not good at all. As always, he'd found something to make me smile and distract me from this unwanted and unwarranted train of thought. As we got closer to the car, we saw a strange green glow inside. We both paused for a moment and considered this. We came to the same conclusion at the same time. Fuck. Fairy fucking foxglove.
The Professor. I'd been diving into my admin duties for a couple of hours now. I'd found that Ben Johnson, one of my fellows in the police, was doing well after his horrific crash. A crash that Will was implicit in. Ben was cracking jokes in his email. They were utterly awful, and I loved them. They told me that he was in a better place than he had been. Sula had been investigating a coven in Kent. That sounds like the title of a novel. She'd been trying to get to grips with Nabd, an ancient goddess that had arisen in the area again. She, as always, had completed this task with great efficiency and tact. Nabd was, well, no more nabbed. That was what I'd read. Her full report would be interesting. How had she banished her? A debriefing was required. They were my priorities. Next, there were a number of requests for my consideration on dangerous paranormal phenomena. I could tell reading the first that it was a fake, just by the description. It was a human con game. A pseudo-cult had been set up by a fake messiah who was busily absorbing his followers' wealth and sleeping with as many of them as he could. Humans are humans, and they're always into the con wherever possible. With my experience, I could tell this straight away. It smelt of a conman. I could even give Chester Police the books the new Messiah had read and put into action. It was an old story. 99% of the things I dealt with were human-created bullshit. Although you could consider a great part of the paranormal world created by humans too. Their imagination, you understand. Their faith and belief are power sources for the supernatural. I mused on this thought as I sipped at my bitter morning coffee. The beans had been stale when ground. A downside of spending so much time away from home, actually. Whiskey doesn't go stale. But I couldn't excuse myself having a whiskey at 7 a.m. Drinking at this time. Where just isn't cricket. The stale coffee was a waste of the beans that I loved. My thought went to a time in Jamaica. Jamaica. I think it was 1726. I had introduced the populace to coffee for the very first time. The mountains there were perfect for their growth, and they had none of the diseases of creatures that preyed upon the plants back in their native lands. They thrived and produced the most perfect crop. The Blue Mountain Arabica bean is now recognized as the best coffee bean in the world. This one part of my history had made me a personal fortune, not unlike the Frobishers. Young Nick Frobisher is the godson of my best friend Ernest Wainwright. He's the latest in a multi-generational dynasty of coffee importers in the United Kingdom, and their Blue Mountain Arabica blend is among the very finest on this planet. It was those beans that I had desecrated on this occasion, and I felt terrible. If Nicholas's father, Atticus, had still been around, he would have been broken-hearted, he really would. Gosh. Such a decent chap, Atticus. Such a loss. I pushed the coffee cup to one side. Life's too short for cheap wine and bad coffee. A personal joke there. You know, what with me being immortal and all. This quote actually has been misattributed to many folks, but it's all mine. It's a personal joke, as I say. Mine. Personally. Next, I opened an email at random in my overly full inbox. It was a strange email. It was from the inspector there in Lincoln. A young girl of 6 had been found in Scampton, a small town outside Lincoln. She'd been missing from home for some 6 months. She told the police the story of being taken by fairies and held in a huge building with many other children. She was emaciated and showed signs of long-term restraint. A psychiatrist had diagnosed her as a schizophrenic and also suffering from psychosis as a result of a kidnap. It was thought by the medical world that the child had invented these stories and that she told them as a reaction to what really happened to her. The inspector, who knew me and my work, thought something was wrong here. Having spoken to the girl, he decided that the story that she told was just too good, that it never changed, that the details that she remembered were too precise. So he contacted me. The subject line was, "She believes in fairies, and she made me believe in fairies." It's a nice touch to grab my interest. It worked. I read the email. "Dear Simon," it read, "I hope you're well, and I'm glad you enjoyed the Talisker Sky Malt I sent you. It's one of my personal favourites. As uncomfortable as I am with your world, this seems to be your thing. An untypically high number of children have gone missing in Lincolnshire and surrounding areas. We thought that there might be a people trafficking ring or some grooming group taking them, but all efforts have not produced any evidence, which is very strange. Here is the most recent incident that's happened as a report for you. Police report. Lincolnshire Police Department. Officer Inspector Roy Wisher. Case number 2023/0047/SP. Date 20/01/2025. That's January for our American listeners. Location: George's Park, Lincolnshire. Incident details. At approximately 10 a.m., a 6-year-old girl, identity withheld for safety, was found in a highly distressed state near the entrance of George's Park, Lincolnshire. The child was recovered by a local resident who immediately contacted the authorities due to the child's erratic behavior and extreme distress. Upon questioning, the girl reported that two 6-inch-high, green-skinned female fairies had taken her hostage. The alleged incident occurred within the park, where the child claimed a strange glowing light suddenly surrounded her before finding herself in an unfamiliar location. According to her statement, she was transported to what she described as a huge warehouse filled with a large number of other young children, all restrained in chairs. The children were allegedly subjected to a repetitive viewing of various Peter Pan films whilst being forced to chant, "We believe in fairies." Failure to comply, falling asleep, or ceasing to recite the phrase resulted in punishment administered by the small green-winged women whom the child identified as fairies. The child declined to repeat what the punishment was, but it did bring about a trauma response in the child at the very thought of it. The child exhibited genuine terror when recounting these details and persistently requested to see her mother. Due to the depth of detail provided and the consistency of her responses, I do not believe this to be a fabricated or imagined story. Upon reviewing the case and the nature of the child's claims, I will be contacting Professor Simon de Montfort, a well-regarded expert in supernatural entities and head of the Supernatural Police Department. Professor de Montfort will be briefed on the situation and hopefully may provide insight into the potential explanation and further investigation methods we may adopt. Preliminary Findings and Actions Taken Register, PFAT. PFAT-01. The child has been safely reunited with her family under police supervision. PFAT-02. No evidence of abduction via conventional methods has been found in the immediate vicinity. PFAT-03. A review of missing persons cases in the area is currently underway to verify the claim regarding the other children. PFAT-04. A large number of young people under the age of 6 have gone missing in the locality. There has been no evidence that the children have been taken in the conventional sense of kidnapping. PFAT-05. Further investigation of abandoned warehouses within a 10-mile radius of George's Park has been requested. PFAT-06. Awaiting consultation from Professor de Montfort for guidance on potential supernatural elements involved. Inspector's notes. While the nature of the girl's story is unconventional, her genuine distress and the specificity of her testimony warrant a serious investigation. Given my previous experience and knowledge of Professor de Montfort's work, I believe that a supernatural element should not be immediately dismissed. I await further advice before proceeding with any additional public disclosures or investigative measures. End of report. Signed, Inspector Roy Wisher, Lincolnshire Police Department. The girl told a story of being taken from her mother while walking through a Lincoln park. The mother was an ex-drug addict on the social services radar. The child had said that she met 2 fairies in the park. The local constabulary thought that the park was George's Field in Lincoln. The fairies then took her away to a place where she was held in a chair and told to never stop saying, "I believe in fairies." The child apparently was still constantly repeating this under her breath even now. It seemed to be woven into her very being. The inspector has also demonstrated that the number of children that have gone missing in Lincoln and the surrounding locality is at an all-time high. I opened another email that seemed related. An officer of the SPD in Phaeton mentioned the rise in the use of fairy dust within the Fae community. A coincidence? I hate coincidences. They give me a bellyache, and this one gave me a doozy. I performed a search of my inbox now using the word fairy as the key search criterion. There were a lot of emails with fairy in the title. Fairy this, fairy that, fairies, Why were there so many bloody mentions of fairies all of a sudden? Oh, fuck. Fairy fucking foxglove, I said out loud to the room. Fairy fucking foxglove, indeed. What had that little terror been up to, I wonder?